Chapter 3. When Dreams Lead to Nightmares. In her unconscious trance, Ruuna found herself immersed in a vivid dream, where she envisioned herself floating and soaring upon the gentle caress of a warm summer breeze, accompanied by none other than the enchanting Mr. Butterfly. Ruuna could not believe her eyes. The world surrounding her was bustling with brilliance, awash in a kaleidoscope of vibrant hues. Rolling hills, lush and verdant, stretched out before her, adorned with golden specks of blooming yellow flowers that seemed to extend beyond the reach of sight. Above, the heavens displayed a near-flawless curtain of aquamarine, adorned only by a scattering of cloud-like wisps. The radiant sun, a beacon of luminous yellow, bestowed its comforting warmth upon her fur, whilst the very air she inhaled bore the invigorating essence of pure nature. And not far off, a tantalizing aroma of freshly cooked food teased her senses. Ruuna delighted in peals of laughter, a response to the playful antics of her fluttering companion, Mr. Butterfly, who effortlessly danced and twirled around her, a whimsical presence of joy and grace.
"Follow me and we'll see the village. It's not far from here,"
he playfully invited as he took off in a direction. Soon Ruuna followed him through the hill-filled grass valley. Amidst their airborne journey, Ruuna's keen eyes spotted hard-working creatures toiling diligently in the sprawling cornfields below. With a friendly wave she greeted them, and in turn they accepted the welcome with kind smiles and a warm and respectful bowing gesture each. In the distance, she discerned the familiar figure of her rock giant friend, often concealing himself amidst the mighty mountains. However, from this great distance he appeared no larger than a diminutive ant, a mere speck on the horizon.
"Good day to you, Mr. Stone."
Mr. Stone was the fond name Ruuna had called him all his imaginary life. Unexpectedly, Mr. Butterfly ascended swiftly, soaring high above the earthly realm. In a gesture beckoning her to follow, he fluttered his wings, compelling Ruuna to ascend as well. Soon they ascended to lofty heights, reaching elevations that approached the very realm of the clouds. Ruuna gazed in awe as they climbed, feeling as though they had reached the pinnacle of the world itself. In her heart, she believed that nothing could surpass this soaring elevation, for they had ascended to a realm where the sky met the heavens.
"Ha! Look down there! The village, just as I told you."
Mr. Butterfly pointed down into the valley as he spoke. As Ruuna cast her gaze upon the enchanting vista before her, she beheld a charming, quiet little village nestled snugly within the tranquil valley. Small woodland creatures of diverse kinds dwelled therein, harmoniously coexisting in a realm of serene peace. However, it seemed that amidst this idyllic community, there was one who may have harbored a hidden sorrow. A delicate strain of a soft, melodic voice, that of a maiden, gently caressed the air. Her peaceful tones sang and echoed as it was faintly carried across the valley. It was a song of ethereal beauty, evoking a sense of tranquility, yet tinged with an underlying melancholy. The wind, ever unpredictable, occasionally muffled the enchanting notes, leaving Ruuna to catch mere fragments of the simple yet soothing melody. Captivated by the enchanting voice, Ruuna's gaze fixed upon a solitary figure, a mouse maiden whose appearance bore a striking resemblance to her own. Perched upon a vantage point, the little mouse sang her heart out while casting her gaze wistfully over the sprawling valley. Unable to tear her eyes away, Ruuna felt an irresistible pull, a deep desire to engage in chatter with the lonely creature.
Who's that? Down there?
Ruuna asked curiously in her young, childish voice.
What's that?
Mr. Butterfly looked down at where Ruuna was pointing.
Oh. I haven't the foggiest.
She looks sad.
Well, I can hear her song from here. It does sound very pretty.
Curiosity seizing her, Ruuna tilted her head inquisitively. Acting upon a sudden impulse, she tucked her arms and gracefully descended from the skies, swiftly closing the distance between them.
Hey, hold on now, just a flying tick. Wait for me.
Mr. Butterfly called after realizing that he had been abandoned. The air carried Ruuna gently, guiding her toward the solitary creature as if drawn by an invisible thread of fate. Seated upon a cozy blanket, nestled beside a majestic oak tree, was a diminutive field mouse donned in a vibrant orange and yellow summer dress. The mouse maiden, deeply immersed in her solemn song, remained oblivious to Ruuna's presence, her eyes shut tight, seemingly detached from the surrounding world. Ruuna listened to her as she slowly touched her footpaws to land on the grass. Each note seemed to carry a tinge of sorrow, as if she yearned for something beyond her reach. The anguish woven within her song resonated deeply within Ruuna's being, stirring her empathetic spirit.
When noontide sun beams warmly down, hard work and good friends we will see. Though we are here in this bright new world, we shall never forget why we're free. Watch the fire as it dances high at the close of the day. When we gather, paw in paw, for thanks we bow and pray.
The mouse maiden's voice rang throughout the valley, echoing softly as it carried the final note of the song off to distant lands. There was a moment's peace as it was allowed to fade into the memories of those who were there to hear its resonance.
Your singing was really pretty. Why was it sad?
Ruuna's voice broke the quiet, serene moment, slightly startling the maiden, and she looked to see who it was that was speaking to her, as she didn't recognize this new creature's speech.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't hear you sneak up, little one.
Ruuna shared a small chuckle at the remark. Eyes brimming with anticipation, she sought to delve deeper into the melody's secrets. The tune wrapped around her like a comforting shawl, evoking memories akin to the nostalgic aroma of Mum's freshly baked biscuits. The maiden's expression took on a gentle shift as she embarked on the tale behind her melody.
That carol that I was singing is a very special song. It holds in its lyrics sayings of this beautiful land we all live in. It was passed down to me through my mother as an heirloom from my great-grandmother. But it is also a sad one for me to sing, because it is the only memory I have left of my younger years.
Ruuna could feel the anguish of this little mouse as she explained what the song meant to her. Ruuna had many questions she wanted to ask, like where she had come from before, or why she couldn't remember what her younger years were. Surely you would remember such a thing that happened to yourself, right? She didn't even know this mouse's name. Yet when Ruuna looked at the sadness that filled the maiden's eyes, she couldn't help but ask the one question burning in her heart.
Do you wish you could go back?
The maiden smiled softly, with a tear in each eye, not knowing how to answer such a question, yet knowing the innocence of Ruuna, and wishing she could be a child like her just once more. With her gaze fixed upon the verdant valley below, the mouse maiden resumed her melodious humming, the delicate notes floating in the air. Beside her, Ruuna settled herself, captivated by the simple melody, and observed as tears welled up in the maiden's eyes, trickling down her cheeks like gentle raindrops. Ruuna felt the wellspring of her own emotions surge forth, causing her own tears to gather. Succumbing to the poignant serenity, she closed her eyes, embracing the comforting enfold of darkness, allowing herself to be wholly consumed by the reminiscent strains of the song.
The earth awakes at morning's first light. Feel the zephyrs and mists in the air. In a hidden grove so fair and bright, where you will find all of us there.
As Ruuna stirred from her slumber, the melodious cadence of the maiden's voice dissolved into a mere echo, fading into the recesses of her consciousness. Instead of the gentle caress of a summer zephyr, a chill dampness enveloped her, reminiscent of a cavern's embrace. Ruuna opened her tear-filled eyes, anticipating the enchanting vista of that wondrous realm wherein the friendly mouse maiden had woven their bond. Alas, a more sinister scene awaited her. She found herself surrounded by woodland creatures of a young age, perchance a score, diverse in stature and form, yet all sharing the same fate. Bound within the confines of captivity, they were all prisoners, ensnared by the cruel bars of their existence.
You're crying. You're not hurt, are you?
The young voice of a vole boy asked tenderly, much to Ruuna's surprise. Fixing her gaze upon him, she then shifted her glance to the multitude who had also observed her presence. Completely off-put by having so many watching her, she couldn't help but coil into a compact ball, clasping her limbs tightly. This wasn't her house. In fact, this wasn't where she wanted to be at all. She just wanted to be home again, with Mum and Dada. She wanted to be free. But the many different eyes of creatures she didn't know, being stuck in a cage, all of it was too much for her. She buried her head in her lap, concealing her sorrow in a veil of silent tears.
Now look what you've gone and done, you hard-headed nut. You've gone and made her cry.
Another voice reprimanded as she approached. She sounded larger and more responsible than most other creatures there. The young vole, with a sulking tone, shied away as he realized his mistake.
I didn't mean to. I just wanted to make sure she was all right.
The bigger creature showed her dismay toward him as she shook her head. Soon she sat herself respectfully next to Ruuna, with a bit of half-eaten loaf in her paws.
You don't have to be afraid of us. We won't eat you. Here, I know it's not much, but I have a small scrap you can eat.
Ruuna could smell the stale piece of bread in her paw. She slowly peeked her teary eyes from behind her knees to see that it was, in fact, a badger maiden that was sat next to her. There was no question that she was the one who was taking the lead in caring for the others. Ruuna slowly took the bread and held it in her paws, sniffing the crust. Its form was dry and stale and certainly couldn't compare to that of Mum's cooking. Still, it was something to satisfy her hunger. With both paws seizing the crusty, oversized crumb, she bit into it. the taste akin to that of an oven-burnt scone that had been neglected.
There, see? We aren't going to hurt you. My name is Belle. What's yours?
Belle's voice seemed strong and unafraid, even in these circumstances.
I'm called Cecil.
I didn't ask you, you giant dung beetle.
Hey, you don't get to call me that. You really big... Oh, forget it.
Cecil started strong, but petered off when the much bigger Belle stood up to meet his gaze, her large curled paws on her hips exuding a toughness that showed an air of fearlessness. Admiring the free-spiritedness surrounding her, Ruuna began to let out a laugh at the antics between these two. She could now feel the motherliness of Belle and the innocence of Cecil as they tried to make her feel more comfortable in these dire circumstances. Answering the question before, Ruuna now began to speak in her childish yet quivery voice. A wet and hearty sniff begins her dialect as she wipes the sadness from her snout.
I'm Ruuna. My mum and dad are farmers, close to the Burrside fields.
Oh, Ruuna, you said?
Belle asked, readdressing the tiny mouse in a curious yet playful manner. She turned and crouched to meet Ruuna at her level, still deciding whether or not to trust them, and still fearing Belle's amplified size. Ruuna hid behind her knees as she stared at the badger's face, her eyes leveling as Belle knelt down to her shrunken height.
You don't have to be afraid of me, remember?
Aye, but you should be trembling in fear of us.
The raspy voice of a hooded gopher called from behind Belle on the other side of the cage bars. The unexpected and malevolent utterance struck terror into Belle's heart. Swiftly she whirled to confront the source, her back pressed against the imprisoning grates wherein Ruuna was seated. Fearful and dispirited, Belle sank down beside Ruuna, her countenance awash with a tumultuous blend of anxiety and rage. He seemed to affect the whole of the other prisoners too, putting a fearful cringe into every creature's hopeless features. Observing this reaction, the gopher grew a frightening grin that lingered even whilst he spoke. He had accomplished his yearning for entertainment from this miserable bunch.
Good. Get yourself a good load of rest now, for you'll be needing it when they set you to work.
Where are you taking us?
One creature asked quaintly in a nasally tone of despair.
Aye, to where the seas stretch for eternity and the heavens never meet the earth. Ye shall be sea dogs, rowing your backs to faraway lands. You best be getting accustomed to it.
Ruuna observed the profound effect those words had on the others. A few among them, unable to contain their emotions, succumbed to tears. Even Belle, who had clung to hope, found doubt taking root in her heart. Ruuna caught sight of Belle's widened, fear-ridden eyes and exasperated features. As he turned to leave, the gopher gave way to taunt the helpless prisoners once more.
Now be good little slaves, and forever say goodbye to your land-loving loved ones.
In that moment, as if a dormant flame ignited within her, she swiveled her head toward the gopher and locked eyes onto his proud, self-righteous silhouette. Determinedly, she bolstered herself and advanced toward the fore of the cage to confront him head-on. With her brow deeply furrowed, she unleashed a torrent of impassioned words, raising her voice in righteous indignation.
I'm not afraid. I'll get us out of here and far away from you. Try as you might, we are free creatures and we'll not be your slaves.
Every creature within earshot heard that challenge. The gopher paused in his tracks at this, and with a mocking tone he explained,
Oh, but you ain't me slaves, no. I'm merely escorting you to 'em. Besides, there'd be no escape, even if you could break free from that cage. Where would you go? You'd be locked in with no place to run.
I don't care. As far away from anywhere you want to take us as I can. There's much more of us than there are of you, anyway.
Oh, be that the case, you wee rascal. Oi, Scratch-Nose, Red Claw, stop!
The three weasels turned their attention away from the camp they were constructing, dropped their supplies, and shuffled quickly over to Slagg, all making some sort of salute.
Yes, first mate, sir. Ow!
Addressed Stubb smartly, only to receive a cuff to the back of the head from Red Claw, whilst the others snickered at the antic, aside from Slagg, who wasn't in the mood for fun and games.
Right. Let's teach 'em a lesson in how to behave under the new captain.
As a united front, they secured a length of rope and advanced towards the cage. Ruuna, now rigid with the realization of her mistake, stumbled backwards. The door of the cage swung open, and a paw marred by vicious claws emerged, inching its way inside. Overwhelmed with dread, Ruuna found herself rooted in place, unable to evade the encroaching appendage. Belle, paralyzed by fear, stood immobilized, unable to act. Cecil, with valiant effort, reached out and grasped Ruuna's left arm, endeavoring to draw her to safety, but his diminutive stature rendered his efforts futile. With great resistance, Ruuna was forcibly dragged out of the cage and tightly restrained with the constricting grip of the rope. Her indomitable spirit spurred her to struggle ceaselessly, refusing to yield. Thunk! Alas, her defiance was met with a harsh blow delivered by the blunt end of a pike, which struck her head, leaving her in a dazed and semi-conscious condition. In this weakened state, she was led away from her companions, isolated under the desolate shade of a solitary birch tree, exposed to the elements. Her body was splayed against the tree trunk, her paws bound tightly behind her. The gopher, cruel and vindictive, seized hold of the tuft atop her head, and, with brutal force, yanked her gaze to meet his own malevolent stare.
Oh, it seems you don't fancy being alone. Well, until manners and respect grace your tongue, you'll be tied up here, soaking in the scorching sun, with nary a drop of water to quench your thirst.
His evil grin grew to distaste when Stubb interrupted his pleasure in this hostile confrontation.
Slagg, won't that upset Skaglar when he finds out she's too weak to row any?
Nay, 'cause no beast be tellin'. Ain't that right, mates?
Slagg threatened as he drew his curved, thin-bladed knife from its sheath and brandished it at the three weasels. There was no more complaining from any of the others to speak of.
Right.
Slagg now turned his attention back to Ruuna, as his voice slowly built to a yell.
Now ye be a good little mousemaid, and learn yourself some manners.
Slagg's evil smile turned grumpy as he stowed his knife before storming off and chastising Redclaw mercilessly. Ruuna watched, with hatred burning in her heart. She attempted to wriggle out of the ropes that bound her to the tree, but nothing happened. She tried spitting on the knots to loosen them, but the binds were good and tight. Even a sailor's daughter couldn't untie them. Soon the sun began to beat down on her relentlessly. Ruuna knew that she needed to calm herself, or she would overheat in the sun, being without water. But still the panic began to set in, causing Ruuna to wonder why she spoke out so freely.
I wish Mum or Dada would find me. I wish I knew where they were.
Ruuna cried tenderly, as she had never felt so alone.